What if the weakness you feel was never truly yours? What if it was just a mask the world made you wear, soft and silent, so you wouldn't rise? You were taught to be kind, to explain yourself, to wait your turn, but deep down, you knew something didn't feel right. You felt it when people spoke over you, when they smiled with dead eyes, when they used your empathy like a leash. And the worst part, you kept giving because you thought that was strength. Let me break something to you, something raw, something real. You are not weak, that you've just been conditioned to act like prey in a world built by predators. Manipulation isn't just a trick. It's a language, and you were never taught how to speak it. Because the moment you do, you stop being controlled. But here's the truth no one dared tell you. They don't manipulate the strongest. They manipulate the soft-hearted, the unaware, those who live from emotion, but don't yet rule it. That's where we begin. Because if you don't master your mind, someone else will. If you don't forge your emotions, they will be used against you. Your heart is pure, but purity without power is just vulnerability. So listen closely. This isn't a video. This is your initiation. A deep return to your own throne. And it starts with two forgotten truths. First is mental alchemy. Your emotions are not enemies. They are molten metal, raw, hot, volatile. Yes, they burn. But in your hands, they can become armored. You've been taught to fear your anger, your sadness, your jealousy. But emotion is energy. And energy is neutral until you wield it. Breathe deep. Can you feel that flicker in your chest right now? That's your power waking up. Mental alchemy means you don't run from emotion. You refine it. You transmute it. Pain becomes purpose. Sadness becomes signal. Anger becomes sword. This is not suppression. It's transformation. But transformation is not painless. It demands you sit with your shadows, not silence them. Walk into your inner forge and hold the fire with steady hands. That is the difference between a slave and a sovereign. Now the second truth is inner discipline. It's not flashy. It's not loud, but it is absolute. Because all freedom begins with control, not of the world, not of others. Of yourself. You think the manipulators hold power? No, they feed on your chaos. They sniff out the cracks in your self-image, the tremble in your voice, the flicker of doubt in your eyes. But when your emotions are disciplined, when your silence is chosen, when your heart doesn't chase approval, then you become unreadable, untouchable, like a mountain in the storm. And suddenly, those who once played you fumble. They don't know where to push, where to dig, where to insert their little hooks of guilt and charm and pressure, because your mind becomes a locked gate, and your spirit, a blade they cannot touch. But this path is not easy. It requires more than watching. It requires war, not outward, inward. A daily battle with your old patterns, your need to please, your fear of being alone. And I won't lie to you, it will hurt. Because you're not just changing habits, you're burning down illusions, you're killing off the version of you that was easy to use. And in its ashes, something unshakable begins to rise. You start to move differently, speak with, wait, look people in the eye, not to seek approval, but to see who dares meet your fire. People will notice, they won't say it, but they will feel it. Some will try to test you, others will vanish, because they only knew how to dance with your old self. And that's fine. That's necessary. Because the path to power is lined with silence and subtraction. You subtract the noise, the lies, the fake smiles, the need to be liked, and what remains is clean, focused, sharp. Now I want you to hear this, not just with your ears, but with your gut. If you do not take back control of your mind, you will always dance to someone else's tune. They'll use your compassion against you, your silence as permission, your kindness as currency, but not anymore. This transformation won't wait for your permission. It begins the moment you're done being broken. It begins now. So sit in the silence. Feel the heat rise in your chest, not to explode outward, but to build pressure inward. Like a diamond forming under earth, the world doesn't need another people-pleaser. It needs warriors with soft hearts and unshakable minds. And you're ready to become one. There's a place inside you you've been taught to avoid. A room with no lights, no noise, just you and your truth. That's the shadow, not evil, not shameful, just unprocessed. Pain you never got to speak, rage you were told to swallow, dreams you buried so deep you forgot they were yours. And yet, This room holds the key to your freedom. Because here's the forbidden truth. You cannot be manipulated if you no longer fear your own darkness. The world controls those who can't sit with themselves, who flinch at silence, who avoid solitude like poison. But when you enter that shadow, willingly, you become untouchable. You see, the manipulators don't win with force. They win with projection. They offer you comfort when you're afraid to face pain. They offer answers when you don't trust your own inner voice. They mirror your wounds and use them as levers. But when you've sat in your own fire, when you've held the sharp edges of who you are and didn't look away, they have nothing to offer you. That's the power of shadow work, that it's not therapy, that it's not theory, that it's a reckoning. And yes, it hurts. But that pain is a forge. You take the raw ore of your story, the regrets, the heartbreaks, the lies you believed, and you burn them clean, not to erase them, but to own them. You become the one who says, yes, that happened. Yes, it hurt. And no, you can't use it against me anymore. That is real freedom. So how do you do it? You sit. You breathe. You listen to what you've been running from. Close your eyes. Picture your younger self, the one who got left out, laughed at, betrayed. Now, don't fix him. Don't shame her. Just sit with them. Let them speak. Feel every word, every image, every flicker of heat in your chest. That you're not going backwards, that you're retrieving something sacred, because the shadow is not your enemy. It's your map. Now breathe again. Visualize the fire, not destruction, but purification. This is mental ritual, emotional alchemy in motion. You are training your nervous system to stay when it wants to flee, and every second you hold the line, you gain power. A quiet fire begins to glow in your belly. Not rage, not fear, but awareness, control. This is the beginning of stoic resilience, not the cold kind that ignores emotion, the disciplined kind that feels deeply but never drowns. You want to know why Marcus Aurelius never broke under pressure? Because his battles weren't with enemies, they were with impulse. You want to understand Machiavelli's brilliance? He didn't believe in cruelty, that he believed in clarity, that he knew that most people are driven by desire, fear, and illusion. And he chose not to be that. He studied the human animal, not to hate it, but to stop being ruled by it. And now, so do you, because you're not just learning skills, that you're remembering a power you always had. The world tried to bury it beneath trauma, distraction, and guilt, but it's still there, waiting. And when you start using visualization daily, when you anchor yourself in breath before you speak, when you respond from clarity instead of reactivity, you are no longer playing the same game. You're not begging for peace. You are peace with teeth. Do you understand? This is the path of emotional alchemy. You don't let storms own you. You walk into the hurricane, not to fight it, but to command it. Because deep within that chaos is your steel, not gifted, forged. This is why the old warriors meditated before battle. Why samurai sharpened not just blades, but minds. Not to feel nothing, but to feel everything, without being moved by it. Now listen close. There will be moments where the old patterns return. You'll want to justify yourself. To chase closure. To prove your worth. Stop. That is the ghost of your past self, begging to stay alive. Let it die. You are building something else now. Not a persona, but a presence. The kind of presence that changes the room without speaking. The kind of presence manipulators hate, because they can't read you anymore. You are the mirror now. You reflect back what they fear, because you no longer fear yourself. And that is the ultimate threat to control. So sit in your fire. Speak less. Feel more. And remember, this work doesn't make you less human. It makes you deeply, painfully, fully human, without apology. That you've seen the chaos inside, and you chose to stay. That's a rare kind of power, and it's only just begun. There's a silence that doesn't mean surrender. It means you've become your own fortress. No walls, no noise, just stillness and power. The manipulators? They hate silence. They thrive in noise, distractions, debates, reactions. They want you flinching, explaining, overthinking. Because every time you react without reflection, you hand them your sword. But you are here to take it back. Because self-control is not passive. It's not weakness. It is the fire that burns quietly beneath the surface. Untouchable. Let's be clear. You don't need to raise your voice. You need to raise your vibration. Your presence must become so disciplined, so centered, that even chaos bends around you. How? Through ritual, through breath, through the daily, sacred art of not needing anything from anyone. Let that land. You want to become unmanipulatable? Stop chasing approval. Stop explaining your boundaries. Stop performing for a world that has no idea what you've survived. Start listening more than you speak. Start valuing how you feel when you're alone, over how you look in a crowd. Start protecting your time like it's gold, because it is. You do this not with anger, but with elegance. There's nothing louder than a man or woman who no longer needs to be loud. Control starts in the breath. When someone insults you, pause, breathe. Don't flinch. Don't frown. Don't react. Watch them. See them trying to trigger something in you and refuse to dance. That refusal, that calm resistance, it's a blade they cannot disarm. You see, most people are easy to read. They react fast. They overshare. They want to be seen. And that's fine for the masses. But you are building the unreadable self, the version of you that doesn't give the world access to your buttons. Because you've rewired every single one of them. Self-control means choosing your responses with surgical precision, not to be fake, but to be deliberate. Because every reaction is a trade. Every burst of anger costs clarity. Every attempt to justify yourself costs energy. Every time you explain your worth, you chip away at your own foundation. So you choose differently now. You choose silence when baited, solitude when overwhelmed, discipline when tempted. You journal not to vent, but to reveal. Your thoughts become blueprints. You write not to complain, but to architect your inner world. You reframe, turning pain into pattern, and pattern into practice. Nothing that happens to you is wasted. It all becomes fuel. You move. You train. You sweat. Because the body remembers what the mind forgets. And as the body strengthens, so does the will. Your backbone returns. Your chest opens. You walk taller, not for ego, but for alignment. This is the daily grind of the warrior mind. And you'll know it's working when you stop caring who's watching. When you no longer feel the need to post, to prove, to perform. Because something inside you is locked into place. A deep knowing. A still flame. And now, something incredible happens. People treat you differently. Some grow quiet around you, not because you're aggressive, but because they feel your clarity. Others test you, throwing little digs, poking, prodding, hoping to find the old you. But they can't, because you buried that version, and you didn't leave a trail. You don't fight them. You don't educate them. You outgrow them. That's the power of self-control. It removes the need to punish, because you've already outlasted. You don't seek revenge, because you've already won. You become the observer. You walk into rooms and feel every frequency, without losing yours. You hear manipulation as clearly as a fire alarm, that fake concern, that guilt tripping, that sweet poison dressed as care, but you don't swallow it. You smile. You nod. And you choose your silence. Because now, your silence is strategy. It's not cold. It's not rude. It's sacred. It's the space where your strength grows unseen, where your peace becomes policy, where your identity hardens into something no one else can rewrite. And here's the final truth of this chapter. The voices that once controlled you fall silent, not because they stopped speaking, but because you don't need their permission anymore. You lead your own thoughts. You hold your own line. You parent your own emotions. And from this inner throne, you move like royalty, quiet, clear, focused, not better than anyone, but no longer available for less. You don't need to manipulate. You don't need to dominate, because you already rule what matters most, yourself. There comes a moment when the old you simply vanishes, not in fire, not in some grand explosion, but in quiet certainty. The masks slip, the roles fall away, and you're left with something terrifying and liberating. Choice, not reaction, not habit, but real, conscious choice. This is what it means to become the architect of your reality. It's not about controlling everything. It's about controlling yourself. So nothing else has to. Let that sink in. Because here's the trap no one talks about. Most people aren't living that they're being lived. By trauma. By patterns. By expectations stitched into them before they could speak. They walk in cages with invisible bars, built by stories they never questioned. But you've broken the script. You've burned the old blueprints. And now you're standing in the ashes, bricks in hand, building something new. That's terrifying. And holy, because there's no one left to blame now. No one to wait for. No savior. No villain. Just you. And you're enough. Now hear me. Mastery is not about being numb. It's not about being cold, or perfect, or robotic. It's about being centered, that it's standing in the eye of the storm, with a calm that doesn't need to shout, with presence that doesn't beg to be noticed. Your emotions? You don't suppress them anymore. You channel them, like molten metal poured into a mold. You shape your fear into courage, your sadness into wisdom, your anger into boundaries. Because emotions are not enemies, they are messengers, and you are the blacksmith now. This is your mind, your forge, and every thought you shape is a spark of your destiny. So ask yourself, what are you building? A prison or a palace? Are you reacting like a puppet or responding like a sovereign? Because the world will test you. People will try to pull you back into old games. They'll resent your clarity, your boundaries, your calm. Not because you hurt them, but because you remind them of what they haven't faced yet. You are their unfinished business, their mirror, their trigger, and that's not your problem. Your only job is to hold your frame. Keep your inner structure solid, while everything else shifts. Because now, you don't negotiate your truth. You don't dilute yourself to be digestible. You don't bend just to be liked. You speak when necessary. You act when aligned. And when you're unsure, you wait in stillness, not panicked. That's power. Real power is quiet. It doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain. It simply is. You don't need to argue anymore. You don't need to prove your insight, because your presence alone reveals your discipline. Now you walk differently. Your posture speaks. Your eye contact pierces, not with aggression, but with the unshakable knowing, I own myself now. No one gets to rewrite you. No one gets access to your nervous system unless they've earned it, because you are no longer emotionally available for chaos. You are no longer mentally open to manipulation. You are no longer spiritually bankrupt, waiting for validation. You are full, not inflated, integrated. Here's your next challenge. Lead, not with pride, not with bravado, but with clarity. Lead your mornings with intention. Lead your reactions with breath. Lead your conversations with restraint. Don't respond to energy you don't want more of. Don't absorb what isn't yours. Don't fight for what you've outgrown. You are no longer a slave to circumstance. You are a sculptor of it. Even when you're tired, even when you're doubting, even when you're standing alone. Because mastery isn't about how you act when things are easy. It's who you remain when they're not. That's when the old self tries to return. The one that over-explains. The one that pleases to stay safe. The one that seeks crumbs of attention from those who never deserved your energy. But now, you pause, you breathe, you remember. You don't belong to your past anymore. You belong to the vision. And that vision of the grounded, focused, emotionally sovereign self. That is your compass now. Hold it. No matter who tries to shake it. No matter how long it takes. No matter how lonely the path becomes. Because you are not just healing. You are building. You are the creator of your mind, the ruler of your most sacred dominion, and no one, not a manipulator, not a ghost, not a memory, gets to sit on that throne but you. The world cannot shape you anymore, because you've become the architect. End of script. Let me know if you'd like a full compiled version of all 4 parts in one scroll-ready or narration-ready format. Thumbnail title options with brutal stopping power, the kind that pierce the algorithm and hit people in the soul. Suggestions for music tone, voice delivery, or image direction to match the script intensity. You're holding something rare. Let's unleash it right.